Hello everyone. I'm going to take this time to go over a very powerful tool in Zoom that enables teachers to interact more closely with their students, and that's the Annotate tool. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the whiteboard in Zoom. So if I go to Share Screen and I go to Whiteboard, people are familiar with this, and you can see once you have the whiteboard up, you could draw on it, and all of the people on the Zoom call can see this because you share the screen and you shared the whiteboard. So let me just close this, stop share. What people are not aware of is you have the ability to annotate or draw on any shared screen, and it doesn't have to be the whiteboard. Now, I've done another video on how to use the Annotate tool with the e-glass, which is really a great improvement on how to use a lightboard in a Zoom setting. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll provide a link below to that video. But what I want to do is I want to show you the Annotate tool. Now, the way you have to do that is to use the Annotate tool, you have to share a screen. So if I go to share screen and I share a PowerPoint that I've used in the past, and as soon as you share the screen, you could see I have a new tool up here called Annotate. And when I click on that, I now have the ability of drawing things on my PowerPoint. Now, in the past, what I've done is I've shared PowerPoints and I've done the annotation inside of PowerPoint. Now you don't have to do that. You could just do this while you're in Zoom. Now let me just undo these lines I just did. And you've got a numbered, aside from drawing, you could use this highlighter to show people on the Zoom call what you're drawing attention to, that sort of thing. But what people don't realize is that once you share the screen, your Zoom participants can also annotate and everybody else can see. Now, once the screen is shared, students can annotate. And let me show you that by going to one of the students' screen who's on the Zoom call. So I'm going to go zoom over to there. So here we are in a student who is participating in the Zoom, and that student is right here, student 1. And you see the shared screen that I shared as the host. As soon as this screen is shared, as a student moves or a participant moves their cursor up to the top, you see this little green title, and then you have something called View Options. If you click on the down arrow for View Options, you see Annotate. You click on that, and now the student has the ability to draw on the shared screen, and everybody who is participating can see those drawings, and you can see the tools that are open to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the host account and show you how it looks when a student draws on the shared screen. Okay, now I'm back at the host account, and let's see how it looks from the host's perspective when a student annotates on a shared screen. So let's say I ask a question. I ask a question to the people in the Zoom setting. Which of the tabs do you have to click on to access form controls? That's a standard Excel question. And let's say student 1 says, oh, I know. And then they go to their annotate and they say, I think you have to access the data tab. And they do this, they draw that. And as you can see, it highlights the student or the participant's name. If I click on select from the host perspective and I hover over that, I could see who drew that. It's student 1 who did that. And then I said, does anybody else want to try? Well, let's say student 2 wants to give it a try. So all they have to do is click on the annotate on their end, and they can say, I think it's the view tab. And they do that. and you can see student 2 shows up. So now I have multiple participants interacting with me, drawing. I could tell who drew what, and then here's something really nice. I could say, well, let me make a little correction. I could click the select tool and I could move, I could move a selection over to the proper place. I could say, well, student 1, it's not the data tab, it's actually the developer tab. And that will be seen by everybody. So not only can they interact with me when I draw something, they can add to it, and I could see who did what. I could also correct things and move things around and resize it too. So if I click on the view tab, if I click on what student 2 drew, I could enlarge it and say maybe you should have selected this area right here. And so this is very, very useful to draw students in and have them participate as my lecture progresses. So what else is there? The other tool that I want to draw your attention to is when you click on the the spotlight button. Now this won't necessarily be spotlight. Whatever has been selected, you have three tools here. So if I have the arrow key selected, you can see the arrow is the one that's up there. What I want to draw your attention to is this one called the Vanishing pen. I click on that. I'm finding I'm using the Vanishing pen quite often because one thing I've noticed is after a while, when you're doing a lot of writing on your screen, annotation, it can get quite messy. Sometimes what I find myself doing is I'm drawing like this and like this. I'm drawing arrows, I'm highlighting things, and then I'm constantly either using the erase key to erase things, or I'm going clear drawings. What I found myself doing is if I want to just point things out to students, I use the Vanishing pen. And what this does is I could draw things, and as soon as you draw it, within a couple of seconds, it simply vanishes. And I like this because I could say, well, this is what you have to focus on right here, and then right here. And I don't have to constantly go to erase to get all of those markings off. I can have a clean slate right after I've drawn attention to something. Now, this is not that different if I go to the Vanishing pen button, I go to the highlighter. I could do the same thing. It's just a subtle difference, and I find myself preferring to use the Vanishing pen, and it just makes things a lot easier, and I could continue on with my lecture and not have to erase and clean things up. So those are the two things I wanted to draw people's attention to. The fact that you can draw on shared screens using annotation, that the participants can also annotate, how they access those annotation tools, and then from the host perspective, how you can manipulate the drawn markings from participants by moving it, resizing it, and then you could identify who drew what. And of course, the Vanishing pen is a tool that I use quite often. So these are two very, very powerful tools that I have found to be quite useful, and I hope you found them useful too. That's all for now.